Chapter 8. SSV. Orizaba. Admiral Stephen Hackett was in his office reading reports when somebody rang the bell. He gave the order to enter and Private Hank Lewis came in. "Sir, we have a possible update on the Ain Jalut," he said as he offered Hackett an electronic pad. "A possible update?" Hackett said as he took the pad. "We either have an update or we don't." "Well, sir, the Asari spotted a group of Reapers headed for Omega, but they never got there, Admiral." "The thing is, Admiral, the ship doing the spotting are the same two ships responding to the Ain Jalut's distress call, sir. We only got their report now because it was transmitted on a lower priority channel, sir." Lewis paused. "I attached a map, sir." Hackett opened the attachment and realized what Lewis was seeing. The map showed the Reapers would have taken to Omega. It passed right past the location where the AML Valkyrie had called for help on the Ain Jalut's behalf. "You think the Reapers heading for Omega diverted to go after the Ain Jalut?" "Yes, sir," Lewis said. "And we just got a report from the Turians. They spotted 12 Reapers and 6 troop transports headed straight for the Epsilon Nebula, sir." Hackett closed the attachment and opened the Turian report. "You think the Ain Jalut is putting up enough of a fight to make the Reapers call for reinforcements?" Hackett asked. "Or something else?" "There is one piece of the puzzle, sir. It's a Turian report on the 7 ghosts, sir." Lewis paused, allowing Hackett to open the last file on the pad. 12 ghosts scouts have rendezvoused near the Epsilon Nebula. Sir, everybody avoids the nebula like the plague." And then it clicked in his head. If the ghosts' homeworld was inside the nebula, it would explain why nobody had ever found it. It also explained why the Reapers were taking troop transports to an area where everybody said there was nobody to invade. It also gave the Ain Jalut a fighting chance to survive if the planet had a defense grid. "Write up your theory and transmit it to the Elalamine and Verdun before they reached the nebula." Dismissed. He handed the pad back to Lewis, who saluted and left his office. SSV Ain Jalut. Tyla Farka was glad to be out of the escape pod. She was in the airlock of the Ain Jalut. The decontamination sweep passed over her and the door opened. 2 Alliance officers led her to the ship's sickbay. The place was controlled chaos. Surprisingly, an Asari was running things. The doctor sat her down on one of the beds and began examining her. "Vara Tilos, doctor," the doctor said. "And you are—" "Tyla Farka, reporter, Thesha News Service. Welcome aboard the SSV Ain Jalut." The doctor continued her examination. She had just finished when a woman entered the room. Her uniform made it clear that she was the ship's captain. "Captain Zara Ayers, Systems Alliance." "Tyla Farka, reporter, Thesha News Service. What's her condition, doctor?" "Nothing, a good meal, a shower, and good night's sleep won't cure, ma'am." "Good," Ayers began. "Now, what brings a reporter out here?" Farka took a deep breath and began explaining how she had ended up here. "Shelter Gamma 1. They had gathered anything that might be useful and that they could carry. It had taken a bit of searching, but they had found an air duct, and now they were crawling through said duct, looking for a way out. "Come out to New Rannoch, we'll have a few laughs," Olaf said as they crawled. "Die hard." Arin said. "Really?" It seemed fitting. They reached a corner and crawled past it. 2 meters later, the duct ended at a grid. Beyond was a sewer lit by gas lamp. Olaf opened the roster and led the way into the sewer. "This place stinks," Hera, once of the Quarian children, said. "But it's not damaged," Arin said. "How far from the surface are we?" "Pretty far. Our history teacher said they're under the Prothean ruins." "I wonder if they also connect to other shelters," Olaf said. "If they do, we'd be safe in one of them," Hera said. "Sounds like a plan to me," Arin said. Arin and Olaf took the lead as they headed deeper into the sewer. The 6 Quarian children followed. Besides Hera, there was 1 and 4 boys. They were called Lexa, Jan, Bart, Carol, and Tom. Lexa and Jan came last. It was Jan that suddenly called for them to stop. He was pointing his flashlight at something off to the side. "There's a ladder here," he said. "It seems to go down." The rest of the group backtracked. They studied the ladder. As Jan had said, it went down, but there was no passage up. It ended on this level. Olaf and Aaron exchanged looks. Then they led the way down. Chapter 9. SSV. Ella Lamine. Captain Marcus O'Neill was in CIC when the message came through. It was an intelligence report written by a Private Lewis, who was posted aboard the SSV Orizaba. At first, he was surprised by the report. But then he realized that it had been sent on a channel that required Hackett's authorization to use. And Hackett didn't tolerate fools. "Anything useful, sir?" a female voice said. Staff Lieutenant Andrea Haley was the acting XO due to the simple fact that she was the ranking member of the few other officer aboard. She was only a few months out of training, but she was hardworking, caring, and smart. Read the report yourself. And yes, I know you don't have the clearance level, so I'm making it an order, Lieutenant. O'Neill paused. Where's Red? In sickbay, he's helping our civilian doctor and settle in. When they had left dry dock, they had left without a medical officer. They had passed near the Terra Nova colony, where they had drafted Dr. Oscar Mulrooney. Red was Operations Chief Redmond Ayers, Zara Ayers' brother. Mark had originally asked for an operations chief called Paul Henderson. Not only was Henderson good at his job, hiring him would avoid the appearance of nepotism. But Admiral Singh had other plans. After discussing it with Hackett, he'd assigned Henderson to Verdun and put Redmond aboard Ella Lamine. Good. I want him to read it after he's done down there. Yes, sir. Haley said, I'll take care of it. He left her to it. She didn't need him breathing down her neck. SSV. Verdun. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Vale was not supposed to be in command of the Verdun. That job was officially meant for Captain Henry DeWitt. But DeWitt had ended up in charge of the SSV Zama after her CO had been killed during a Reaper attack. So here he was, running a skeleton crew of nervous crew members. He couldn't blame them. This war was pure insanity, unlike anything they were trained for. It helped that Paul Henderson was aboard. Henderson was an excellent operations chief. His presence helped the enlisted crew keep their calm. Commander, a male voice began, we have a message on Channel Delta 2. The voice belonged to Staff Lieutenant Eric Kepler, Verdun's acting XO. Kepler was a capable officer, which was why Vale had given him a field promotion to his current rank and post of XO. They were in CIC together. Delta 2 requires Hackett's approval to use. Put it up. Kepler opened the message. Vale whistled when he reached the bit about the possibility of them being headed towards a lost Quarian colony. Thoughts, Lieutenant? Vale asked. Hackett wouldn't have sent the unless he thought there was something to it. He's too good an admiral to waste time during a war, sir, especially during one with the whole galaxy on the line. And I know that there's more from that look on your face, Lieutenant. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. We're running Verdun with a skeleton crew. If we go into battle now, we'll get out butts kicked. If there's a colony in there, we might be able to get the people we need there, sir. Vale nodded and thought that Kepler's assessment was right on the money. Alas, there was only way to find out. SSV Ain Jalut. Rodriguez sighed as he listened to Zara's update. The briefing room was undergoing repairs, so he, Harris, and Ayers were gathered in the captain's quarters instead. Great, so now we have to babysit an Asari reporter. Dr. Telos is taking care of that. She can use the extra pair of hands. Now that we've dealt with that, Harris began. What's our plan for the next wave? The wave that could arrive at any moment, that wave, Zara asked. They started discussing their options. Over in sickbay, the list of patients was as short as it was going to get. Only 2 of the beds were still taken. Great, Farka said. So now I'm stranded in this sickbay while all the action happens out there. Be glad you are, Telos began. This isn't just some story, Tyla. This is a war. With the entire galaxy in the balance, trillions of lives are at stake. This planet, these battles are just the tiniest shard of the madness. Farka nodded. She realized that Telos was probably right, having heard Commander Shepard's claims back in the day. and from what she had seen so far, she was leaning towards agreeing with this being a fight for survival. So, what can I do? We need to help keep morale up. For now, that's the best we can do. Farka nodded again, and she had an idea. Then she walked out of sickbay. She had work to do. Commander Claudia Sanders wished they could communicate with the galaxy outside the Epsilon Nebula. Then they would at least have a time estimate for when the next group of Reapers arrived. But the simple truth was that they couldn't, so they had no idea how long they had. Other engineers would have pushed their people to rush. But one of Claudia's mentors, Greg Adams, had taught her that was stupid. Do it right or else it's going to break later and get people killed, he had said. So she was taking the approach of slow and steady wins the race. At the moment, she was diagnostics and engineering, making sure they hadn't missed anything. She wished Private Barnaby was here, but Barnaby was down on the surface with Zhukov. A pang of worry rippled through her chest. She cursed, then turned her attention back to the screen. New Rannoch. Sewers. It had taken time, but they had found an air duct that was labeled Shelter Alpha 8. Olaf had managed to open the grid. Now they were climbing in, using their flashlights to see where they were going. It took several tries, but they found an exit into the shelter. The room they entered was dark and dusty. Aaron led the way into the corridor. It was the same as the room, so Shelter Alpha 8 was not very promising. Ravager and his fellow Reapers had reached the edge of what the species of the galaxy called the Epsilon Nebula. The last signal from Avenger and his group had come from here. They had been chasing a human vessel called Ain Jalut. Ravager intended to find it and crush it. Chapter 10. The first sign that the second half of the storm had arrived was an emergency ping from one of the buoys that the Quarians used to tap galactic comm traffic. It detected the Reapers and was able to send its warning before it was destroyed. In sick, Rick McKinley started giving orders. Taylor had taken over the helm and he was the ranking officer, so that Ayers, Harris, and Rodriguez could get some sleep. Down in the mess hall, Farka had been cooking to boost morale. She figured that a good meal helped any nerves trying to invade one's stomach. McKinley's voice was calm, which helped her own nerves. She turned off the hot plate and cleaned up. It was at this point that Captain Ayers left her quarters. "Miss Farka, come with me, please." "Me, in sick." She followed the captain to CIC. "Isn't this against regulations?" "Probably. But Serviceman Jones is going to have her hands full with communications, unless I can find somebody to help her." "Somebody who is a level 5 radio operator." "Ah, you checked my profile in the database," she nodded. "I'll take care of it." Amanda Mandy Jones was short, with blue eyes and short blonde hair. Her hands were shaking as they operated her console. "First tour of duty?" Farka asked. "Yes, ma'am. I've been aboard for 5 weeks, ma'am." "Tyla, please call me Tyla." "Mandy." They shook hands. "So any advice?" "Take a deep breath, count to 4, and at one message at a time." Mandy nodded, and they got to work. Zara watched as Farka helped Jones. Like the reporter had said, she had checked Farka's profile in the database. Farka was an undercover reporter. She had also reported on several small conflicts in the Terminus systems. As for Mandy Jones, she was brilliant academically. But she had grown up on Bekenstein, the 4th daughter of a rich industrialist. So she had been sheltered and spoiled. Her enlistment in the Navy had been an act of rebellion against her parents, but was quickly turned in a steep learning curve about how the galaxy really worked. Her ponderings were ended by Harris and Rodriguez entering the CIC. They quickly took their posts. "How bad is it, Skipper?" Rodriguez asked. 18 contacts, 12 Reapers and 6 troop transports. The troop transports had entered the atmosphere on the far side of the planet, while the Reapers were headed straight for the fleet. "We need to put more distance between us and the planet," Zara said as she activated the intercom. "Helm, get us some distance from the surface." "Aye, Captain," Taylor said. Ain Jalut swung away from the planet as New Rannoch's defense grid opened fire on the troop transports. The second half of the battle had begun in earnest. Zhukov heard the transports before he saw them. There was the rumbling sound of their engines and the sound of the AA guns trying to shoot them down. 2 of the transports didn't make it. They were shredded by the guns. A third made the mistake of landing in the wrong place. As soon as its main hatch opened, the twisted beings inside were mowed down. A smart AA gunner had waited for the craft to touch down, using the time to lower the weapons barrel down as far as it would go. And when the moment came, his crew had used their gun as an anti-personnel weapon. Nearby police officers guarding one of the local shelters had followed up with small arms fire and a rain of grenades. When the dust had settled, not a single husk had been left alive. But that was where the good news ended. Tango 1, 2, and 3 have touched down. Barnaby said over the radio, "You've got a LOT of Reaper husks headed towards your position, Chief." Roger that. As if on cue, hundreds of zombified humans, Asari and Tyrians poured onto the square. They made guttural noises, but they were clearly being coordinated by somebody or something. "Wait for it," Avar said. The husks charged and the guns cut loose. Shelter Alpha 8. The good news was that they had finally found people. The bad news was that those people were cranky guards with guns. "Halt!" one of the guards roared. "How did you get in here?" They were standing in a luxurious corridor with heavy-duty doors. The Quarian children were paralyzed with fear, so Aaron spoke up. "Through an air duct on level 3. "Level 3, the lead guard frowned. "That level was sealed years ago." "Well, not completely." Before the lead guard could reply, one of the doors opened and Admiral Harash stepped into the corridor. "Sergeant, what is going around here?" "Admiral, we caught a group of intruders." "Did you?" Harash's tone of voice made it clear that he was not believing the guard's story. "Well, they do look extremely dangerous. So tell me, how did you make it in here?" Aaron explained about how Shelter Gamma 1 had collapsed after the Reaper attack. Then she told Harash about how they had trekked from Gamma 1 to Alpha 8 through the sewers. And that level 3 was a massive security leak. When she was done, Harash nodded. "Weren't you and Olaf supposed to go home aboard the Ain Jalut?" "Yes, but then the Reapers showed up." Harash turned to the lead guard. "Sergeant, take them to room 17. "But, sir, regulations state that." Harash gave him a look that made him swallow the rest of that sentence. "Yes, Admiral." Aaron led the way as they followed the sergeant. Something in her stomach told her that their problem had only just begun. The square had turned into hell. Dead husks littered the place. Explosives had blown craters into the ground. They had lost the people to the assault. The museum had taken damage as well. Barnaby's team had abandoned their position to keep them from being overrun. They were putting down covering fire from a nearby building. 2 police teams had joined their position. Their shelters were being defended by 2 volunteer militias now. "Don't waste any ammo," Zhukov shouted into his radio. "Make your shots count?" "Yes, Chief," came the replies over the radio. He shot a human husk before putting 3 rounds into an Asari that had been mutated into something horrible. It was not impressed, but it was distracted. So the thing didn't notice the mine it had stepped on until it was too late. The explosive took both its legs off and Zhukov killed it with a headshot. He was taking down a Tyrian husk when there was an animalistic roar. The source, however, was an elderly Quarian. Armed with a sword, the man charged the husk army. "Get!" A human husk went down. "Off!" An Asari lost her head. "My grass." Zhukov and Avar exchanged looks. Then they went back to shooting husks. SSV Ain Jalut. The battle was not going well. 3 ships had been wiped out in the opening salvo, and then the 4 survivors had been forced to scatter. Ain Jalut had lost track of the rest of the fleet as she dodged Reaper fire. Zara cursed. The Reaper had entered the nebula from a different direction as Avengers group, rendering their trap at Netta's useless. Between that and the Reaper's numbers, it would take a miracle for anybody to survive this fight. She was about to give an order when Farka spoke up. "Captain, we're getting a signal from inside the nebula." "It's weird, ma'am." "Let's hear it." Farka pressed a button and AC/DC's Thunderstruck boomed through the CIC. Zara and Rodriguez exchanged looks. "No way," Zara said. It can't be. Who else would be crazy enough to make an entrance like this? And then the person the both thought it was made her presence known. Chapter 11. Jill Amazon Da was a legend in the Systems Alliance. Born in 2136, she had served with David Anderson during the First Contact War and aboard the SSV Hastings afterwards. She had climbed the ranks from gunnery chief to lieutenant commander after Stephen Hackett had insisted that she should accept an officer's commission. At 6 feet and 3 inches or 190 centimeters, she was distinct. She had been retired, having left the Navy 2 weeks ago. And then the Reapers had invaded. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in, she grunted. Her freighter, MSV Bellerophon, was currently loaded to the brim with Krogan mercenaries. She'd been collecting them from all over the Terminus systems. Rumor had it there was some kind of political turmoil brewing on the Krogan homeworld of Tuchanka, and a lot of Krogan wanted to go home to get some answers. But then, the Reapers had invaded. When the AML Valkyrie's message had reached them, the ranking Krogan, a battle master called Varrock Crag, had agreed that they needed to go. So here she was with a crew of 22, counting her, and a cargo bay with 311 Krogan. Looks like we found the fight, her XO said. Harry Tyler had been the captain of the MSV Endeavour for 27 years. The Reapers had cut his ship in half, but he had gotten his people out alive. Ready for some payback, Harry? You bet I am, Amy. Da nodded, and Harry began flipping switches. He began by transmitting Thunderstruck on all channels, then he cut loose the tethers. When they had entered the system, they had found 4 jury-rigged in orbit of the 50 planet, and they were dragging all 4 of those wrecks along. It hadn't been easy to get them up to speed, but they had pulled it off. The 4 wrecks kept going while the Bellerophon peeled away. SSV Ain Jalut. Zara pressed the transmit button and waited for the blasts. All 4 wrecks exploded, warping space and sending bolts of energy in all directions. Space snapped back into place, sending more bolts of energy coursing through the area. Ain Jalut managed to clear the blast. 2 Reapers were not so lucky. One was killed outright, while the other was caught in the gravity well of New Rannoch. It crashed on the northern continent. A 3rd Reaper turned away from the Ain Jalut to chase the Bellerophon. I'm not complaining, Rodriguez said. But how did one freighter just pull 4 wrecks along? That's an Athabasca-class freighter fitted with a Tyrian Mark III engine combo, Harris said. And based on our sensor logs, they made some repairs to the wrecks before getting them moving. Rodriguez nodded. The first wave of Reapers had triggered enough of the mines in the inner asteroid belt to leave a safe passage that the Bellerophon could fly through without triggering alarms. And all the Bellerophon had needed to do was get the ships moving. After that, physics had done the rest. The freighter and the tethers had simply kept the wrecks on course. Over at the communications station, Farka turned to Jones. Did I miss something, Mandy? When I was in the academy, there was this legendary Marine instructor called Jill Da. She always played that song at the start of final survival training before graduation. It was the make or break moment for her course. She retired 2 weeks ago, Tyla, Jones nodded. I heard she bought a freighter, I just didn't know which one. Then one of the Reapers fired at the ship, and Taylor threw them into wild turn to dodge it, ending the conversation. Ravager cursed as he chased the Ain Jalut. This blasted ship had cost them too much already. It needed to be destroyed right now. He had no intention of becoming its next victim, so he fired again and again. But the blasted ship kept dodging his shots. He ordered 2 more of its kin to attack it. This would be the end of the Ain Jalut. They were surrounded. Taylor was doing his best, but it was only a matter of time before they hit and it was over. Zara's mind was racing, looking for a way out. Come on, Z-Think, she said, or else this is going to end badly. On the screen, the Reapers were closing in. Then the Ain Jalut dove into the atmosphere of New Rannoch. 3 of the Reapers followed, but the AA guns cut loose. It bought them the time they needed. She ordered Taylor to skim lower over the northern continent. The ship swung to the new course. When they got there, The heat from the engines caused the ice touched by the wake to turn into steam. It was enough to make the Reapers miss twice. But then they reached the other side of the continent, so Taylor swung the ship around. He hoped that Captain Ayers would be able to pull a miracle out of her hat, or they would end up melting the whole continent's ice shelf. Shelter Alpha 8. Room 17 turned out to be a bedroom. There were several bunks, along with a table with 10 chairs. One corner had a kitchen and there was a door to a bathroom. "So now what?" Jan asked. "I don't know," Ain said. "There's not much we can do." They were children and this was war. Ain knew that people were dying. She wanted to panic, wanted to throw up, wanted to cry. Part of her brain was worried about Chief Zhukov, while another part wanted to talk to Rick again. As the storm raged inside her brain, she sat down on one of the chairs. Next to her, Olaf unpacked their stuff. "We should have stayed on the ship," Ain said with a sigh. "There was nothing we could have done there," Olaf began. "We just would have been in the way." "What is it like?" Hera asked. "Being on a spaceship?" "You've never been on a spaceship?" Ain asked. "No," Jan said. "Only adults get to go into space." Glad for the distraction, Ain began telling them about their past adventures. Museum of History. They were running low on ammo. The police units had brought them extra thermal clips, but it was not enough. As for the greenskeeper, he had managed to take down more than 40 husks before being overwhelmed. They had managed to get him out of there, and he was being treated for his wounds. But his odds were not good. To make things worse, the Reapers were unleashing extra large husks that Zhukov was calling brutes in his head. He shot another husk and cursed. Another wave of husks came charging forward and was riddled with heavy caliber bullets. "Who said the cavalry is always late?" Avar said with a smile. Looking up, he saw a ghost scout ship swooping in. A second one appeared and unleashed another salvo. He had been so focused on the local battle that he didn't see the rest of the fight. There were Reapers in the distance, having landed on the surface. The remaining 10 scouts were bobbing and weave, firing missiles and machine guns at them. Then the 2 scouts dropped 1 box of ammo each. Avar made hand signals, and the rest of the soldiers provided cover fire as they collected the boxes. They opened them and started handing out the clips. For now, they were ready for another round in hell.